Hello dominants and submissives, I'm Master Zahn from Ontario, and today is lecture number 22, Male Slaves versus Female Slaves, Differences in Lifestyle Experience, and the Social Political Aspects of Off-Culture Gender Role. Normally when I do a lecture, I make a point to keep it gender neutral, but this lecture is going to be a little bit different. Now, every role in the lifestyle has its challenges. Particularly, slave has greater challenges than most of the others. I'm not going to say the most, but greater than most. But it does have the largest differences for the gender of the slave. So the experience of a female slave can often differ greatly from that of a male slave. For this lecture, the examples that I'm going to use are going to have Femme Doms. This is because Femme Doms often prefer to dominate other females and tend to be harsher on males, which helps make the point of the lecture. Now, what a female slave can expect their experience to be like outside of personal preferences, because every dynamic is set up specifically for the people involved, so taking that out. Now, the role of slave is not an easy one. Bowing, serving, acting as a maid, worship, training, punishment. These are all normal parts of a dynamic, and these are all things that a female could expect from their mistress. Female slaves also often have a dress code that's chosen by their mistress. When a femdom trains or punishes their female slave, it's often like a normal dynamic. There's a level of respect between the two, a sort of give and take. And quite often, the mistress has a plan for their slave or submissive. Even a pro-femdom can have a plan for their client in the end. And while humiliation can still be part of a female-female dynamic, it's really the main focus of a femdom female-slave dynamic. For that type of dynamic, it's a more normal, dominant-submissive give-take, with a level of respect between the two. They can still be equal the way that any other dynamic would be. When a female slave is out looking for a dominant, trying to pick a male dominant can be a very difficult thing. There are many different types of doms, and even finding just a good one can be hard. It's not that there are no good male doms, and it's not that there are no bad femdoms. It's just that if a female goes looking for a femdom, they're more likely to find what they're looking for than if they go right out looking for a male dom. Now, some people tend to think dom male, sub female. And as I've mentioned in my lectures before, this is very, very wrong. It's as wrong as viewing a submissive as weak or a dominant as abusive. A femdom is not a super man-hating feminist any more than a dominant male is a woman-hating misogynist. So when you have the female-female dynamic, you're basically talking about a normal dynamic between two people. But as for what a male slave can expect their experience to be like with their mistress, a male slave's experience tends to focus on humiliation, servitude, and worship. Worship of their mistress, her boots, her equipment. I've seen male slaves made to crawl around, lick toilets, act as sissy maids. I've even seen them used as work ponies and many other things that you normally wouldn't see a female slave doing for their mistress. Crawling behind them when they're not a pet, all around wherever she walks. Kissing the spot behind where she steps as she moves by. It's not that the male subs who get these tasks and treatments aren't out looking for it. In fact, that's more often than not exactly what they're looking for. Or that some don't get lighter treatment. It's just more common for it to be harshness, or for a male slave's experience to be more harsh than a female slave's. Now, the last part of my lecture is again, just my own personal opinion, like when I did the BDSM in normal culture lecture. And it's solely my opinion and based on my observations. Now, some places and cultures still view men as superior, more misogynistic places in the world. The shadows of that archaic view can actually still be seen in cultures around the world, including where I am in Canada, in America, and I'm assuming almost everywhere. Many places have worked to change this, but it's still slow going. But there are places that still hold that more misogynistic view, where they think that the male is somehow better or more capable. I have a friend, she's a Femme Dom from Pakistan, and there are other Femme Doms there, they're on the rise. I have great respect for my friend there for doing what she does where she is. These are strong, proud women holding up their heads in a place that says they shouldn't do that. And that on its own says something great about the character of these Femme Doms. But the men who submit to them seem to accept these women as equal or superior, as I'm sure holding archaic views like that, they feel the guilt of the past and the shame and want to be seen as more accepting and modern. The femdom that I mentioned that I have great respect for, she's actually part of a very unique type of dynamic, one that you don't see often anywhere. It's an alpha-alpha dynamic. She is completely equal with her partner. They both take turns being dominant and submissive without necessarily being a switch. And it's, as I said, an alpha-alpha dynamic. It's a bit complicated, and maybe one day I'll do a lecture on off dynamics like that, but that's for another time. But personally, I don't think that you can have strong women and submissive men in an underground culture without that starting to leak out into the normal culture at large. I think that this could actually be the beginnings of a shift in their culture to where women are more respected, have more power and authority, and are seen as equal and capable. Now, shifts in culture and society often take place very slowly and start with underground cultures the way that this is. So, if I had to take a guess, I'd say that over the next decade or two, we're going to see a rise in female liberation in those parts of the world. Now, as I had said, when a male slave goes looking for a mistress, they're often looking for something a bit harsher. Now, sometimes this is because they have a very demanding job and they would like to let go and not have to think and just be told what to do. On the flip side, some of them might feel that they have a lack of control, and this way it gives them the sense that they don't need it. But no matter what, every dynamic is based on consent. The ones who get harsh treatment, the ones who get lighter treatment, people who are whipped, spanked, it's all based on negotiation between the members of the dynamic. Now, I want to take a moment to say that I've been trying to grow from my lectures. The last video I posted was an interview, and I'm trying to get more interviews locally. I might actually go a bit outside of the kink culture because there are types of non-sexual kinks. I know somebody who does a webcast of eating super hot sauces. Personally, I find that to be a form of masochism. I enjoy hot myself, so have a unique perspective on that aspect, I think. But I would like an interview with people outside of the kink culture who have different, not necessarily fetishes, but different enjoyments than the rest of the population, to see how these types of kinks fit into the lifestyle and fit in with the rest of the people just in society at large. I don't know exactly what my next lecture is going to be, or if I'm going to do an interview next, but I do hope that you will tune in. So once again, I'm Master Zahn from Ontario. Thanks for tuning in, and please tune in for the next lecture, whatever it might happen to be.